No three little birds, but another 3 points for spotless, perfect Ajax. Bad boy Benzema shoots the sheriff after facing justice. And Man City stir it up against PSG. No more Bob Marley puns, I promise. But Jonathan Johnson is with me. Heath Pierce will be joining us shortly. We're recapping all of Wednesday's Champions League Matchday 5 action. Que Golazo begins right now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Que Golazo Champions League Matchday 5 Wednesday. Before we begin, a little bit to deal with here. It was only after finishing yesterday's live recap that we realized, my goodness, after all that pressure, we passed 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you so much, everybody, for being part of this family. We really appreciate you. Please send in those questions, those comments. Follow us on Twitter, Que Golazo Pod. Subscribe to the channel. Spread the word. It's the best way for us to keep growing and giving you great free episodes like this. And I said I would sing if we reach our goal, but guess what? I said it that when we reached a goal yesterday. All right. I'll sing a little bit. How about I just say, let's go. I shot the sheriff, JJ, but I did not shoot the Benzema. I'll stop right there. I promise. JJ, how's it going, buddy?
Very, very good, thanks. Although not quite as good as I was 10 seconds ago before you started singing. I'm going to be honest. It's not your strong suit.
You know what? Actually,
you know what? You're a fire dancer.
That's pretty much where we'll end it. Jonathan Johnson, good to have you, buddy. Heath Pierce hopefully will join us later. But let's begin with Manchester City 2-1 against Paris Saint-Germain. Not only do they confirm knockout stage qualification, but they top the group, which is a big deal when the seeding and, of course, the draw comes out for the knockout stages. 2-1 against PSG. First, before we begin, JJ, me and you were laughing about this. Jack Grealish apparently is not only the British record holder for a transfer, but he's also pretty good when it comes to the ticket office for Manchester City. He's giving some tickets away, selling some tickets. I guess the Etihad needs we're going to get killed by Man City fans. JJ, that was pretty funny, though.
Yeah, it was. Obviously doesn't do the empty had moniker any favors. No, just honestly, it's just a very strange thing to do. I mean, I tried to imagine kind of how everyone might react if it was another, top player at a big club.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'm scratching my head. I've not seen anything like that for a long time. I mean, okay. I mean, I guess it was confirmation before we knew that Grealish had failed his late fitness test. We knew that it was going to be touch and go for him. And I assume that those tickets would have been his family's otherwise. But just a very strange vibe overall with that one.
I mean, very nice. You're giving some tickets away, but you're kind of giving away the roster lineup before anything else. It's so weird. So weird. But anyway, regardless, let's talk about the action on the pitch. Manchester City wins 2-1. It was, you tweeted it. I totally agree. It was one of those games where Man City in complete control, but it didn't matter because the moment PSG, Neymar, Messi clicked, you could sense some magic. And magic did happen. Indeed, actually, Kylian Mbappe, in his 50th Champions League appearance, by the way, that's 22 years old and 339 days. The second youngest player to reach that milestone after Cesc Fabregas, who did it in 22 and 331 days, but he opened the scoring. And then obviously Man City, with the possession, with the control, with the, uber pressing, they managed to get that win. How did you see this game, specifically from PSG's perspective?
I mean, let's start with City quickly. Thoroughly deserved the win. Very dominant from start to finish. Should have scored more than 2 goals. I think they'll be kicking themselves a little bit in terms of not being more clinical. We saw Gundogan hit the post in the first half. We saw a bunch of different PSG players making saves on the line. So it was, it wasn't a surprise that City ended up running out winners overall. What was a surprise, and in a bad way, was just how poor PSG were, because we saw them really raise their game in the home match in Paris. And this time it was, for want of a better word, it was cack from PSG. It was very, very bad. I'm struggling to think of anything really positive to say in terms of the way the team was set up. Obviously, all eyes would have been on Mauricio Pochettino. I struggle to comprehend how any club can be looking at what Pochettino is doing at the moment with PSG and actually, work out sort of what is his influence and what's not his influence. Because you know that when you get the ball to the likes of Lionel Messi, the likes of Mbappe, the likes of Neymar in the final third of the pitch, they're going to be able to cause opponents trouble. Whether it's Man City, whether it's an average opponent in Ligue 1, they're going to get chances and they're probably going to score goals every now and then. But the thing is, the rest of the team, that there was no discernible tactical setup whatsoever. The midfield was pretty much an afterthought. And I think Pochettino really let himself down there, because there's a lot of speculation out there at the moment, that he wants to go to United. He's waiting for them to knock on PSG's door and for the negotiations to start. The perfect, thing to bring United to the table would have been to put in a statement performance tonight, get a statement result. And they looked like they were going to fluke that when Mbappe opened the scoring, and then City ultimately got a deserved win. But I think that PSG, looked very, very poor this evening. And I think a lot of that is down to the fact that they weren't really sent out, with any real, game plan.
Yeah, I think it definitely seemed like that, where PSG were kind of just working more on instinct as opposed to Man City, who clearly had a plan, through the game. But if you're a Man City fan or a PSG fan, we would love to hear from you. Send us your comments. How did you see the game? Do you think that Man City should have scored more? Do you think PSG and Pochettino is kind of this relationship that essentially is not going to work out? We will see how that goes. But, also, one more thing about this game, JJ, there were moments when the trio, right, Eminem, as we speak, Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar were working together, and then Angel Di Maria came in later and kind of helped some things out. Was it the lineup that you thought when you saw it first?
Obviously, it wasn't, but then again, you have to bear in mind that Verratti and Wijnaldum were ruled out quite late on. When we were talking, in the hours in the build up to the match, we assumed that Verratti had been back because he obviously played against Nantes over the weekend in Ligue 1. And we know, we've spoken about it so many times, how important he is, but also to lose Wijnaldum, who did so well away at Leipzig. But, also at the same time, I wasn't really that surprised, because I've seen this happening so many times, with this PSG under Pochettino. And let's be honest as well, let's think back to the Leipzig match last time out. PSG were fortunate to get the draw there. Leipzig absolutely annihilated them in the early stages of the match. And once again, PSG were left to feel very fortunate that their opponents were, not as sharp in front of goal as they perhaps should have been. So I think PSG, in the situation they're in right now, having gone through in second place, that it's a dead rubber there, the final game of the group stage. That's a massive weight taken off of their shoulders, because if they'd gone into that final game against Club Brugge, knowing that there was still perhaps some chance that they could get pegged back, given the way that they performed in these last two matches and the way that they were held in Belgium as well, it really wouldn't have surprised to see them put in another pedestrian performance. So I think PSG got really lucky here. And to be honest, at this stage, I don't really think it matters too much who is put out on the pitch, because the team is just so top heavy. When you don't have a functioning midfield, which PSG don't, when Verratti's not there, it's very difficult to, for them to get that much fluidity going. One person I will praise, I think, from this game, who I think, does deserve to be singled out in a positive way, is Leandro Paredes, coming back off of an injury, not being able to show what he can do so far this season under Pochettino, when others have been able to shine, like Idrissa Gueye, like Ander Herrera, guys grabbing themselves some goals while Paredes has been on the touchlines. I thought he showed up, and did as well as could be expected. But, when you're sort of in a midfield where, kind of 2/3 of them look like they're running in treacle most of the time, it's very it's difficult to be able to change the match in the team's favor on your own.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting Christmas period, I think. And, I've said it from the very beginning, I think, and you kind of hinted it to it. PSG really just get to the knockout stages. And then regardless whether you win the group or you don't, then you can maybe reset and reassemble, whether that's with Mauricio Pochettino, we will wait and see. But at this point, just because of the squad, and to your point, the lack of fluidity, maybe what they need is to just confirm knockout stage qualification, and then they can just focus on getting better and moving up the table and defending, or at least getting it back. I'm sorry, the Ligue 1 title. All right, let's move on here. Leipzig, by the way, little too late, but my goodness, what a performance! 5-0 against Brugge. To your point, doing PSG a favor here, but they were very impressive. Definitely offensively and defensively. 5-0 away from home.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, you look at that group makeup at the moment, you look at their stats: 13 goals scored, 13 against, a goal difference of 0 with 4 points. Yeah, it's not what Leipzig would have expected or would have hoped, but I think that now they've put themselves in a position where they're probably going to drop into the Europa League unless Brugge get something in Paris, which is not beyond the realms of possibility. I think Leipzig are in a position where they can now perhaps turn it around. They seem to need to be able to put their focus on the Bundesliga, given the way they've sort of slipped away in the last couple of weeks, had to come back, and then are struggling in form once again. So for me, it's I think for Leipzig, whether or not they advance to the Europa League or not, they're just sort of in a sort of salvage situation in their season right now. Jesse Marsch obviously fighting for his future, and if they can put in more performances like that, where they've got their key guys, like Silva and Nkunku firing on all cylinders, then they're going to go places and, positively as well, and move up the table and potentially move into the Europa League as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Some good questions and comments there from everybody. Natalie, I believe you said PSG's not winning this, not by a long shot. I mean, listen, I wouldn't discount anything, but yeah, at this moment in time, obviously, a lot needs to be done. But like I said, the knockout stages is a blank canvas, and it's do or die football. So to me, that's a different kind of storyline. And then Dan said, to be fair, I had Man City high up in my power ranking, so losing 2-1 to City is not that detrimental. It's not, but when you still have that quality, and also to your point, JJ, PSG didn't look as prepared as Man City, and that can always be a problem. And by the way, Man City, very good defensively in the league, but in the Champions League, they've conceded a lot of goals. That's 8 goals now in 5 games. So they are always a little bit open, definitely in the midweek action when it comes to the Champions League. So what do you make of
that? I think, though, as well, you kind of expect that when you've got the attacking prowess that PSG have, they're going to be able to hurt any team in European football. And City, as good as their defense can be, they're going to have to recognize that sometimes you do come up against a team with brilliant attacking prowess like PSG. But, it's very difficult to compare City and PSG, because I feel that City right now, they're streets ahead of PSG in terms of identity, in terms of the way that they play.
100%.
Guardiola just has such a well-oiled machine there. And to be perfectly honest, I really had them pegged as the team that would win the Champions League last season. No disrespect to the job that Thomas Tuchel did with Chelsea. Obviously on the day in that final, they were deserved winners. But I think that City really missed, their golden opportunity, and they're going to have to work hard for the remainder of the season to get it back. But they're going about it the right way at the moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, hence Pep scoring already 17 goals with Man City in the Champions League. I think he agrees with you. There was a chance, rude, by the way. Pep gets nervous in Champions League. I don't know if nervous is the word. I think he sometimes overthinks things. That could be maybe due to nerves, but I don't know if it's nerves. I think he's been around the block too many times to get nervous. But he does overthink, which has happened before. All right, let's talk Group D. Real Madrid, and as everybody pretty much predicted, including our very own Jimmy Conrad, Sheriff, they've had their moment in the sun. It's now to face reality as Real Madrid win 3-0. Talk to me just very quickly, JJ, because we did begin the day with Karim Benzema and, a very important verdict that came out in terms of this sex tape scandal or whatever it is. It's insane. What's the latest with that, and what did the verdict ended up happening?
Yeah, so Benzema has basically been found guilty of playing a part in the attempted blackmail of Mathieu Valbuena. Basically, him advising Valbuena when they were with the French national team together has basically been considered, sort of tampering or getting involved with this issue. And because of that, Benzema has now been handed a 1-year suspended jail sentence. So that means that if he reoffends in some way in the future, then he will go directly to prison for a year because he has this hanging over him. There's a €75,000 fine on top of it as well. And his lawyer has already said that they will appeal, and he's confident that he'll be completely exonerated upon appeal. But for the moment, Benzema obviously has to be on his best behavior because of this. But you've already had the French Football Federation president, Noël Le Graët, coming out and saying that it's not going to cost Benzema his place in the French national team. Basically, it's up to Didier Deschamps. Didier Deschamps wants Benzema to be part of the French team. So there's no chance that this verdict will now cost Benzema his place in the with Les Bleus once again.
Yeah, it's a proverbial slap on the wrist, basically. Don't do it again, etc. And 75,000. I mean, that's like what, his grocery shopping money for a week. Like, I think I don't think he has to worry too much about that.
I think he keeps that in his pajama pocket when he goes out to get some groceries.
It's at the bottom of the sofa when he can't find any money. Absolutely. All right. Well, listen. Well, Real Madrid does win 3-0. David Alaba scores Madrid's first Champions League goal from a direct free kick since 2018, JJ. 2018, Isco against Roma was the last time they did that. But the battle for first place goes right down to the wire because Inter Milan won 2-0 against Shakhtar. So Real Madrid against Inter Milan, that has to be the tastiest of matches in the final day of the group stages.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It does look interesting. I'm happy for Sheriff in the way that this has worked out because, they took a bit of a beating, but also at the same time, they're already guaranteed to continue their European adventure and go into the Europa League. So that's quite heartwarming. I think we discussed it in the preview pod. So disappointed with Shakhtar Donetsk this season. 1 goal scored in 5 matches. Honestly, it's they might as well have not even bothered turning up. But no, that does it is really really fascinating to see that Real Inter matchup coming into the final day. It keeps things interesting in terms of who finishes top, who finishes second. We spoke a bit about it earlier with City and PSG. Doesn't really matter as long as you get yourself into the knockout phase, so that now both of these teams have already guaranteed that. Perhaps they'll mix things up a bit, experiment, rotate, put a bit of focus on what's going on domestically, and we'll actually see, the two teams go at it without feeling as much pressure, which, might create, quite an attractive match at the end because it is still two very good teams with a lot of very good players on display.
Absolutely, and it's a classic game. It's one of those historically good matches. All right, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, we're taking a break. If you're watching this live on YouTube, I literally say we're going to take a break and then we literally come back. So don't go anywhere. Don't even blink because Que Golazo Champions League Wednesday, match day 5 recap. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, told you we would be back if you're watching live, and here we are. Don't be shy. Get into that comment section. Throw in a comment. Ask us a question about anything with the Champions League, to be honest. There's a lot to discuss, by the way, including, and by the way, Heath Pierce should be joining very soon. But Jonathan Johnson, Atletico Madrid lose to AC Milan. First of all, there's a great story here from AC Milan perspective. The scorer, Junior Messias, he went from Serie C 2 years ago, Gozano that was, all the way to Milan and scoring the winning goal against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. A Brazilian, I believe, immigrating to Italy. Just an amazing storyline. But so there's much to talk about from that perspective. But JJ, Atletico Madrid have not won a game at the Wanda Metropolitano in the Champions League this season. It's just so disappointing from Diego Simeone's side.
Yeah, it is hugely disappointing. And, I remember we were doing the preview for this the other day, and, we were debating whether, Atleti would be able to get it done, whether they'd be able to scrape the draw. I think I predicted a draw for this one, but I wasn't completely down on AC Milan's chances. And so I'm happy for them that they can go into the final round of games and at least be able to, potentially fight for advancing. Because if you look at the way that is set up, it is really intriguing now for this final round of games because anyone can go through, but anyone could also just drop out and just completely have their European adventure ended. Atleti now could pay the maximum penalty, for not making the most of that game. And at least getting a draw, because they could end up, completely dropping out if they lose to Porto. But AC Milan, if they manage to beat Liverpool, who've won all of their games so far, you can't say that, suddenly they haven't merited, at least continuing into the Europa League. But you'd imagine that a win over Liverpool would probably see them, maybe even sneak into the knockout phase of the Champions League. It's really finely poised. But yeah, I was stunned really by Atleti, and it's not been a good season for them so far. They're having a tough time. Maybe Diego Simeone struggling to remotivate them after the success of last season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we have a call to action here, and as we do it, I want to include our friend Heath Pierce. HP is in the house. Heath, thank you so much for being here. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys doing?
We're good.
Yeah, good, thanks.
By the way, Jonathan Johnson, it's late in Paris for JJ. So anytime you feel like bowing out, we forgive you, JJ. It's been a long day for Jonathan Johnson, so that's fine. Now that I have my West Coast reinforcements, I don't want to keep him too long. But before he goes, I have a call to action for everybody watching and listening as well. You can send a tweet if you hear this later on. But which team do you think, guys, is following Liverpool out of Group B? It's very, very tight. Of course, AC Milan play Liverpool in the final day, and Porto face Atleti. Porto is leading by a point. Anything can happen in the final day. So I would love for everybody to just give me that comment. Maybe just give me the team. Just write down the team. Is it Porto, Milan, Atleti? Could be.
You know what? I'm feeling mischievous. I'm going to say that Milan win against Liverpool, a big night at the San Siro, and I'm going to say that Porto Atleti is a draw.
I like it. How about you, Heath?
Oh, wow. I mean, I like the Milan narrative. I think for me, the interesting thing about that is we saw Inter Milan last year drop out of this, and that be the thing that they went on their run. We're seeing Napoli right now also in Europa League losing that, again, managing a schedule with not being the deepest of rosters. We've seen AC Milan get tested already this season in terms of rotation at the front line and strikers available for the team. But yeah, I think this is one why I'd love to see AC Milan really step back up. They haven't been known for being successful in Europe in recent years, or even domestically. So this would be a huge sign for them to be able to get a win, as JJ mentioned, and get through to the knockout rounds.
Absolutely. I mean, to JJ's point, I mean, Milan beating Liverpool, it's not that insane, given the fact that Liverpool can really just focus so much on everything else, including the league, especially since they already are in the knockout stages. But are you having a bad hair day, Heath Pierce, or is that just
just because I wear a hat? No one says it to you, Luis. When you wear a hat, no one asks you that. You know what I mean?
Well, I have a little less hair than you, Heath Pierce, but my headphones went off. But are you having a bad hair day? Let me pick up my headphones so you keep going.
I just didn't do my hair. If that's considered having a bad hair day, then yes, I guess I am having a bad hair day. So yeah, it was sometimes it's just easier to throw on a hat, leave my little neck beard, and just look a little unkempt heading into this Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, you know what? It's so mean. How about you say, Heath, hey, nice hat. How about that? We begin with that, because you don't know. It could be a very good hair day, but you just want a nice hat. Anyway, Group B, match day 6 is going to be awesome, says Kellen. I agree. Mauricio, AC Milan go through. They were unlucky in the first few matches. They'll play a weak Liverpool in the final game. I think I agree with you. JJ, you agree, right? Because you said a victory for AC Milan. Yep.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. I know from speaking to Simon Kjaer how important it is to Milan, and I think they'll look at the chances that they've had so far in this group stage that have been kicking themselves about one or two results. This has really given them the shot in the arm that they need, and I think that they'll do it against Liverpool. But I think that Liverpool will rotate as well, which obviously won't go down that well with Simeone, because he was already griping before the game about how he didn't expect Liverpool to really go at it and do them any favors. Oops.
Yeah, I mean, it's and one of the things I was talking about or thinking about before I was jumping on with you guys is sort of the positioning, as you guys were talking about with Simeone, and what that means for a year like this? At what point? And he's one of the few managers we've seen stick around for a long time and be part of a project that's had some incredible successes. But at what point reaches your exhaustion point? And we see this coaching carousel happening everywhere else. Is there not another attractive place for him to challenge himself to do it again? Obviously, we're in the midst of some chaos in La Liga, so there is opportunities that he might, or the opportunities might look greater for domestically for Atletico Madrid than usual. But I start to look at this and go, man, this system, how long would it last? Where could his style of play fit elsewhere? And when I'm looking at
Manchester United
and I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about PSG, I know you would look at him and say, hey, he's a Serie A manager, but that management, when we saw that shift go to Mourinho and at Chelsea, it can really disrupt other leagues and have a huge impact if you can get a buy-in. So I just wonder, at what point is there an exhaustion point? I don't know if you guys have a take on that, or when you think, how many more years can you do this for as a system that is rewarded only in results? It's not rewarded in the style of play or the way that we see attractive football anymore, and it's just something different.
Yeah, I mean, I totally take your points, and I think at this stage, kind of Simeone is like an institution with Atletico Madrid, and I think if there's going to be a change, it will have to be on his terms. He'll have to feel like, right, guys, I've taken us as far as we can go. I can't do anything more,
and somebody else is in place as well.
What more can you do there? I mean, in terms of
you bring back some. It's to JJ's point, though. Like, true, it's how far can you take? But it would be down to Simeone, I think.
I think it just. I mean, to be honest, yeah, I completely agree. I think we're sort of we're seeing that ceiling be reached now. I don't think we're going to be seeing an Atletico Madrid going all the way to the Champions League final that we saw years ago. I think those days are gone. And I think with all due respect, and it was a fantastic achievement. Winning the occasional La Liga title is probably the best that Atletico are going to. It's as good as it can get, is what I'm trying to say already. And I think now it's really just up to Simeone. It depends on whether Simeone really feels like he wants another challenge. Whether, I don't know, maybe he wants to branch out into international management. Maybe he sees an opportunity to open up somewhere. Maybe he just wants a break after however many consecutive seasons it is that he's done now.
Steve Bruce to Atletico Madrid.
That's crazier things have happened.
Hey, listen, Peter Schmeichel wants Steve Bruce at Manchester United. Why don't we
just insert Steve Bruce? That should be like the like example. When you have the credit card commercials and it says
Cabbage
like
even exist in Madrid.
Yeah, it will soon.
Anyway, we do have to mention, though, the Liverpool win against Porto. Thiago Alcantara scored an absolute beauty in that one. Of course, Mohamed Salah as well. So Liverpool just keep on rolling, by the way. They are perfect, and they should feel very good. So really, it's just about keeping that momentum. JJ, Heath and I were talking about our power rankings last night. I would love to hear yours if you had like 4. I mean, Heath, was ours the same? I mean, we were going through Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, Bayern Munich, that kind of storyline there.
Yeah, I think by the end I had Bayern Munich higher up on that list, only because, again, Liverpool for fear of what could happen. But based on the current time I was, Chelsea, Liverpool, and then Man City, Bayern Munich. But JJ, I do have to preface this by saying that Luis tried to do his power rankings in no particular order, which is not a thing for a power rankings.
It was an asterisk to power.
He said, "Here's my power rankings, the 4 in no particular order." I'm like, you can't do that. So we need you. And again, for everybody who didn't see it yesterday, would love for them to give their or didn't see or listen to the show yesterday, give their power rankings. But what's your top 4, JJ?
Yeah, and please like and comment and subscribe, and we want to hear your power rankings. But JJ, give me yours.
I mean, mine, I think, would have to have Liverpool at the top right now, given their form, and given the performance of City against a PSG. I mean, PSG with many question marks around it, but still, very impressive in this style of victory. The players who are still out, I'd put City second. I wouldn't put Chelsea third. I might well be tempted to agree with you with Bayern and have Bayern up there in third, and Chelsea in fourth. But the other thing I will say is I expect it all to have changed by January.
Really?
Yeah, I will say this. I will say this though, JJ. There was an argument of saying And I agree. It's a little bit snobbish for us not to be having a conversation about Ajax right now and how they would fit into Europe. Not being, there was an argument that they shouldn't be a Cinderella run if they go deep because of just the quality and the form of their team right now.
They'd be fifth for sure.
Yeah. Well, listen.
Unfortunately, we got
the thing with Chelsea, the defending champions.
Yeah, well, listen, the thing about Ajax is, and I replied to it on Twitter about this, and it's good that you bring it up. It's that I am the biggest Ajax fan. There's two problems for me. One is I need to see the strength of competition a little bit, with all due respect to their group in the Champions League. At least we've seen Liverpool face AC Milan's. Even Porto have been very good. Atleti, even though they have disappointments, they are better teams. Man City against PSG, of course, Chelsea, Juventus. Ajax is amazing. They're amazing. I just want to see the kind of quality that they can face in the Champions League. And with that, just because the Eredivisie to me obviously is not as strong as those other leagues, I just want to see that. But to your point, it could change in January depending on the knockouts. I'm taking nothing away from Ajax. I just think that when I'm thinking about my power rankings, I have those four above them. Either of you can jump to that one. I mean, JJ, if you had a comment about Ajax.
I don't disagree with that. And I think Ajax have been fantastic value. Probably one of the most enjoyable teams, if not the most enjoyable to watch so far this group stage. And it brings back all the good memories from a couple of seasons ago, when they were going to places like Real Madrid, getting these crazy results in the knockout phase. And they were everybody's darlings. And, hopefully there's going to be more good times to come for them. Like I said a couple of minutes ago, Ajax would probably be in that top 5 if we were talking about extending or opening up those rankings a little bit more. It's just, for me, it's hard to put them above the defending champions of Europe, especially when you've got, Thomas Tuchel, getting them to crank out the results most of the time and then blowing away a very mediocre Juventus side, who I think have been quite flattered by the way the group stages have gone, to be honest.
Yeah, Heath, before you jump for a second, just a quick note about Ajax. Did win today 2-1. Sebastian Haller is the first player in Champions League history to score 9 goals in his first 5 appearances. So a mention for Haller there, by the way. Go ahead, Heath.
Yeah, that was actually my point, was that Haller is, I think, level or within a goal of Lewandowski, who everybody's talking about. Look at his form right now in the Champions League. He's got to win the Golden Boot based on, domestic and Champions League form. And you have a guy like this. And oddly enough, like you mentioned, JJ, you go back a couple of years ago when they were on this deep run, they lost a number of those players, sold a number of those players on. They've obviously spent a lot of money on Haller, which people were questioning or had an eyebrow up. They're obviously one of the best scouting networks in the world. But to see them now with a new team that actually doesn't feel as young as Ajax usually do, where you have the preface like you do with a Leipzig or whatever, where you go, well, they're young stars, but ultimately they meet a giant that takes them down. That I look at this Ajax side and think they've got enough experience, players coming back home again, older players. They have a mix of obviously some of these young superstars as well, that maybe there's a little magic in there that could be a contender. And like I mentioned yesterday, not considered a Cinderella run if they were to go to a semifinal or even potentially reach a final.
Yeah, Tadic, Tagliafico, but you also have Durami and Neres, Klaassen. It's a really nicely balanced squad. Jonathan Johnson is saying goodbye to us. It's too late for him, and he needs his beauty sleep. Jonathan Johnson, thank you so much for being here, buddy.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on, guys. Pleasure as always. Yeah, just one last thought on that. I totally agree. I think that the balance that Ajax have right now is almost perfect. The other thing that I'd say about it as well is the older guys in the squad, they're not really veterans. They're guys who are still kind of in their prime, still with something to give, still with that hunger, that motivation. And that makes a huge, huge difference. Because if you've just got some guys who are just there to sort of pass on the wisdom of like 10, 20 years in the game, they can't help out as much on the pitch as a guy who's really in peak form like Tadic, both for club and country, with Serbia reaching the World Cup as well. And I think that is a really, really key element for this Ajax side. But anyway, been a pleasure being with you guys, and take care and speak soon.
Thank you,
hey,
JJ.
Wait. Before JJ goes, this is completely irrelevant, JJ. But I found my mom came down the other day and she brought some old collector cards, and you've got a funny accent, so you must know who these people are. I'm going to show you their face real quick, and I need you to tell me who they are. Okay. They're old players cards.
Who is that?
Yeah, that is
you know
I'm tempted to say Swindon.
Yeah,
is that Swindon shirt of some sort?
It looks like Nicky Butt from far away.
That is Alec McLeish. And now I got one more for you. I got one more.
Oh, this is really old.
That was Aberdeen?
If you're not watching, by the way, when you're listening, oh man, wait, hold up.
Oh, that's Ali McCoist.
Yeah, that's Ali McCoist.
Yeah, there it is. Ali McCoist. There.
Yeah,
I couldn't help while we still had you. They were sitting on my desk. And I was like, I got to show them because these are really cool. I was going through, my mom's like getting rid of stuff. So I'm like, we're going to throw this out. But these were part of the collection. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, that takes me back to days leafing through my brother's sticker album collections from yesteryear.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, JJ. Have a good night, my friend, and we will see you next time, buddy. Thank you. That's Jonathan Johnson, John_LeGossip on Twitter. By the way, our producer, Dustin Norris, wanted to remind that, our intro had a lot of Bob Marley quotes, and I began with 3 little birds not allowed for Ajax, and that's because UEFA right now is not allowing any logos on shirts, and there's 3 tiny little birds at the back of Ajax's amazing shirt, and they're not allowing it. They're basically UEFA being NFL-ish right here, Heath Pierce. I think it's like, come on, man. Allow them. It's ridiculous, right?
Let them for the brand. Let them do it. It's not. I can understand on some levels not wanting to set a precedent because we've seen this with Red Bull. We've seen other type of things where skirting around the rules and transparency and things like that. I get that, but man, Ajax, I could probably get DeMarcus Beasley to say how cool Ajax is. And he spent years at PSV Eindhoven going to the semifinals of a Champions League. They're just a cool club. Amsterdam, a cool city. So come on, bend the rules for them a little bit. Everybody's chilling.
The rules, man. Come on now. All right, we're moving to Group C, by the way. And Sporting Lisbon needed a +2 goal differential against Borussia Dortmund. And that they did, by the way. 3-1, despite a late goal from Milan for Dortmund. Heath Pierce, no Erling Haaland in the Champions League knockout stages. No Erling Haaland in the World Cup neither. It's just it's kind of annoying. How do you make no Dortmund? What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's weird to see a team like Dortmund with the youthful building of a roster deal with so much injury concerns, right? You usually don't have that in these younger squads because you have younger players, because you have this rotation of players. You tend to not see a number of players out, but this is a depleted Dortmund side that was just outmatched. It's odd because in the league, they're still keeping pace. I think they're within a point now of Bayern Munich in the league, but this is one that's got to hurt. Now, do I think that opens up an opportunity for them to focus on the league? Yes. Again, we've talked about this before. No player looks at a loss like this and goes into the locker room and goes, well, now I guess the good thing is we only have one thing to focus on, where it's like, no, if you're a Dortmund, your odds of winning the Champions League aren't high, right? You know that you're probably going to be outmatched, but you want to challenge yourself against the best in Europe. You want that respect of saying, but people, especially with American mentality, we're used to winners, right? But when you look at just the way things work in Europe, it's more like some American sports are, where it's, teams fall short of that. Doesn't mean they're not successful. And I think Dortmund's a team that prides themselves in their ability to compete with others, but to not have Haaland in this and in the World Cup is a shame, because obviously this is one of the things that I was most excited about. Everybody was talking about getting into the new year, Haaland being fit again. Be great to see him on the biggest stage, knowing that he is when fit, one of the best strikers in the world already at his age. But unfortunately, they weren't able to do that, and they're dealing with so many injury issues that I just wonder where Dortmund goes from here, or if they even go into the transfer window thinking like we might need a little bit of help.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we do a storylines to look out for in 2022 at the end of the year, and that's definitely going to be one, taking it from one way or another. By the way, without Erling Haaland, Borussia Dortmund have managed just 6 goals in 5 Champions League matches compared to 20 in 12 with him in the side. That's 1.7 goals since his debut for the club in February 2020. That's how important Erling Haaland is, and surely that is it for Erling Haaland in the Champions League with Borussia Dortmund, I would imagine. Heath Pierce.
Luis, do you think that this changes a valuation for him, knowing that he's been out, knowing you're not getting more games? Do you think that there's going to be teams of saying, well, I mean, it's a team sport, he can't control that, but do you think maybe this cools the transfer window or fee, or do you think this is still just like, yeah, but he's still super young, the results of the team or the fact that we won't see him in the spring in Champions League is not going to change that?
Maybe. It's a good question, but I actually think there's another reason for it, and it's because other players are coming into frame, like Dusan Vlahovic can be available for 70 million euros and 21 years old. Obviously, Erling Haaland is incredible, but we have Vlahovic, by the way, who's doing ridiculous things with Fiorentina. So maybe the competition pool during a time when Erling Haaland is out is now getting a little bit fuller. And to your point, him being out and, clubs can maybe look at different options right now. Nobody denies how incredible Erling Haaland is. I just think when a club is looking at where they can find the value for their buck, they don't all have to come running to the Norwegian star. There's plenty of attacking talent kind of all over the place, really.
Yeah, there's a lot of there. It mixes it up. And my question is whether or not that increase of the pool means teams look elsewhere for a different match of value, or if that pool in itself, knowing that you could get that for 70 million, starts to level things out a little bit to saying, yeah, but for half or less than half or whatever it's going to cost, we get this guy.
I guess it depends what club you are, right? If you're Manchester City, you're thinking to yourself, well, we got A, B, and C. If you're like what? Even Real Madrid, by the way, who obviously have Kylian Mbappe in their sights. It's all about the target that you have, but it's a really good question because Haaland being out for this long and showing how much a club needs him when he's fit will make a lot of people think. So it'll be an interesting 2022. There's a lot of players that are going to be available.
I can't remember, and maybe you don't remember either, Luis, and maybe Des can look it up. But what was the injury, and why is it this long? Was it something major? It seems. I mean, this is a multi-month injury to Haaland. That when I again think about the risk to reward, I'm going back to American sports, thinking about the NFL and like no player, no matter what your injury is, and this is the harsh reality. You could lose 1% of what you with every injury, you're losing something that you cannot get back. You can get back to a high level, but you are still losing something, whether mental or physical, that makes that makes you not the same player. Again, you might not ever see that, but it is the reality. You can't just keep getting injuries, and I wonder how that affects teams and how they view him as well. Now, we've seen every player go through these injuries, but I'm just thinking about like if I'm Man City or I'm Barcelona or I'm Real Madrid. Okay, hip flexor strain. I had one of those. Those suck.
Yeah, no, I was gonna answer it. I believe that the original diagnosis was a hip flexor strain, but it just that wasn't. Not only was it not going away, it was getting worse. I guess when you're his frame and that mobile, it can be. I mean, you just said it. You've suffered from it, right? And when you're that big as Erling Haaland, it can. I mean, you're restricted so much from a mobility perspective. It's just tough. It's very difficult.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I had that my first week of college. I went into preseason, strained my hip flexors, and I was like, okay, well, I'm out. And it makes it where you can't even barely walk. And then I had that also when about 3 or 4 months into being with Hansa Rostock in the Bundesliga, I had the same sort of thing. And that put me out a longer period just because of the nature of, your body. They say the world's best athletes aren't best athletes. They're the best compensators because when you have things, your body has to constantly rebalance and retinker itself. And he's a player that obviously is such a machine and so powerful that it actually worries people. We see this again in other sports where they go, well, he's built so perfectly that how could his body has to function at such an elite level to do what he does and move at the pace that he does and cut and dribble and shoot and do all the things that he does better than everybody and more powerful than anybody, that you worry about, the pounding that his body's taking and can it recover from that?
Yeah. And his father said a few days ago, by the way, if he gets a couple of games before Christmas, that will be a bonus, but even that's uncertain. So expect maybe that we won't see more Haaland in 2021, but the storyline for him will continue in 2022.
It's good to talk about him, by the way. It's good to talk about him. We haven't talked about him in a while, which sucks. He's my favorite. He's everyone's favorite player to talk about.
At least we're having a conversation about Haaland, whether he's on the pitch or if he isn't. Well, listen, that basically, you weren't here for the beginning of this, Heath Pierce, so I would love to hear just your quick thoughts on Manchester City against PSG, winning 2-1. Man City pretty much in complete control. Obviously, PSG opened the scoring, Kylian Mbappe, but you knew that Man City were going to come back guns blazing, and Guardiola's system has an identity. And in many ways, PSG, I mean, I didn't say this to JJ, but it seemed to me that Pochettino was thinking elsewhere. in this game. How did you see it?
I mean, there's certainly some speculation to that, and I wonder what he's actually saying versus what he's actually saying, what he means versus what he's saying. But this is one where you just see City are just so fluid in their movements that you can tell on a day like this they're going to score. You can tell on a day like this that they're going to keep creating moments, because as PSG were sitting in their blocks, they struggled to figure out, how are we going to do this? Now, I thought early on, PSG did a decent job of baiting. Teams were sort of filling each other out, like who's going to sit the deepest, who's going to release too many players, who's going to send one too many players forward. But now we've got this 1-2 punch where we can get down to the field and create chances. And again, seeing Mbappe, seeing Messi, they had a little bit of fluid movement with Neymar. And I was like, well, you're constantly at this vulnerability of sending too many players forward, not bringing these attacks to a conclusion, not creating bona fide goal scoring opportunities, right? It's one thing when you keep possession with City, which we know they'll possess you to death. It's another thing to threaten a team where now that team has to pull another defender back, to where now it's possession, but as they go into possession, you can see this ramp up in flow and rhythm where they see their chance and they go 1, 2, 3, 4 passes and they bring it to an end, as opposed to just possession for possession's sake. And when City are doing that, they're really, really hard to stop. They're really hard to beat. And eventually they're going to get their goal. And it forces teams to, like a PSG especially, to not be able to cheat with 3 players forward, because eventually one has to go back because of the fact that they're creating these numerical advantages that are leading to chances, as opposed to just being like, yeah, if we sit in our block, shift side to side, City's not going to do anything, because on some days they don't have that rhythm. But on a day like this, man, you can just see the difference in that. And for PSG, it was just too much in this one. Well, I mean, I haven't heard your thoughts on this either, but that's sort of my take from this game.
No, it was exactly the same. The only thing that I was going to add was I was actually more impressed with Man City's work off the ball. Like, I felt like sometimes Bernardo Silva, there were 2 of him. It was amazing. I mean, we know how good he is with the ball creatively, but my goodness, what a player. I mean, we were having a few discussions between him and Joao Cancelo for Man City's player of the season so far. It's amazing how many tricks up their sleeves they have. But when they do the work off the ball, that's when you really know that Man City are on it. That to me is more, and that's actually a Guardiola obsession. People think that he loves possession and it's only possession. His biggest focus is, what do you do the moment you lose the ball? Yeah. And you saw it today.
Transition game. Yeah, the transition game is the thing that he is best at. I think in order to do that, you are constantly recruiting players that you know can work in the transition game, because it's not about having the ball. Yes, they're a world-class team. They have some of the best players in the world. They're going to be good at keeping the ball. But it's more of, teams can defend that when there's not a danger. And then, like I said, when you bring those attacks to something or create chances, it starts to pull people apart. And then when that doesn't work, the reaction time of multiple players to pounce on them. We saw this peak Barcelona. I think, what did they say? Press for 5 seconds or something like that after losing the ball, and the amount of goals you can score or transition games that you win.
From Rinus Michels to Johan Cruyff to Guardiola. Again, that's right.
Exactly. So as soon as that ball pops up, you're in transition. You don't allow them to breathe. You don't allow them to break those first lines of pressure, because it takes about 3-4 passes to get out to the other side. If you can pounce on that and keep that chaos. Yeah.
And you don't press the ball, you press the space where the ball is going as well. So then you literally have nothing. It's intoxicating. It's amazing. Here's another thing that's amazing I wanted to bring up to you. We talked about it with Jonathan Johnson, but Jack Grealish at 1 p.m. Eastern was selling some tickets, Heath Pierce. He was, breaking the British record transfer fee, but he's also working for Man City's ticket office. And I was just wondering, as a former player, have you ever been stuck with tickets before a game? And I mean, there wasn't Twitter back in the day for you, but did you try and flog them off? I mean, this is pretty, trying to get it. There's one way to get the Etihad packed, and this is one way, I guess, to do it. Did you ever have to do this?
It's funny because in the U.S. sports market, we are constantly trying to the marketing generation of sports in the U.S. is far more advanced than marketing in Europe, because you don't need to sell many tickets to Dortmund because they're all sold. You're talking about history. You're talking about season ticket holder. It's hard to get a ticket in most of these places, right? But in the U.S., built around entertainment, it's different in how you market. So it's much more common to have a player be like, I got 4 tickets. One of the last LAFC broadcast that I did, there was a number of players that were giving away tickets. There was the broadcast team. They were giving away tickets and doing sort of giveaways and things like that are interacting. There's much more of this interface with fans. And I know Europe is getting younger. We see Raheem Sterling. We see Rashford. We see these guys interact more with fans online, social media. Obviously, a lot of that is in response to negativity that exists and racism that exists. But we're seeing this wall or this gap between fans and the player starting to decrease. But in the US, that's always been there across the sports. And so I had tons of opportunities to where they'd be like, hey, man, you mind doing this giveaway? We're a little light on attendance. Or for me, just to engage with fans, to have like, hey, I got 10 tickets, or I got 16 tickets, or I got 4 tickets to a big game or a big match, and I'm going to hawk them off on somebody that I think would mean a lot to. And it gives you an opportunity to interact with fans. And like that alone, it seems so foreign there, but that alone is so cool and so important for Jack Grealish as a person, to humanize him, to connect him more with people, to be like, oh man, this guy's on social media and now he's just hawking out these tickets and he's going to have to respond on social to somebody. And I'm sure somebody else handled all of that at that point, but it was still pretty cool to see, and definitely a good note that I think players should do more of, because you know, they don't need bigger social following, so they don't really need to do a giveaway. They don't need the fans for their own success because they're at the top of the game. But there are certain ways that I think you can win people for life. It's like when you respond to people on Twitter that are hating you, they tend to turn quickly and become your friend and fan if you just respond. And so I think humanizing that experience is a really cool thing. So.
No, absolutely. I'm just making fun of the fact that the Etihad needs all the help it can get. Sorry, Ari Castillo.
Yeah.
And also, I'm still a bitter Villa fan that he left, by the way. But anyway, that, my friends, is the end of our coverage for Champions League match day 5. Thank you so much for tuning in. And Heath Pierce and I bullied you into making sure that we got 5,000 plus subscribers, and that we did. I sang at the beginning of this show, by the way, Heath. So,
what'd you sing?
I just did like I Shot the Sheriff, but I can just be like, my Sherry Mo. Lovely like a summer. See, I could do that. JJ thinks I don't have a voice. I have a voice, man. I just sometimes like to show it. Do you want to sing, Heath? Do you have a song for us or no?
I don't have a song for sure, and nobody wants to hear me sing. But I guess if the next milestone, whatever Des Norris, our producer, sets the milestone as, I'll sing something for somebody. I'll even sing a request that they might have. All
right, 6,000 subscribers. Heath Pierce will sing for you if we get 6,000 subscribers.
People better share this with everyone. Share this. You better like this. You better comment. You better subscribe. Share it with everybody because we're gonna get to 6,000. I'm gonna need more of these reps so that I can go and pay for voice lessons to make sure I don't embarrass myself at 6,000 subscribers. But I'm excited, man.
Well, I just embarrassed myself. Who cares, right? Well, Hollywood Heath, you better live up to your
You're a performer, man. Hollywood Heath is because I live in LA. You're an actual performer. You're a stage performer. Stage performers tend to be able to sing and dance and act.
By the way, your sister can definitely help you during Thanksgiving or something. You never know, right?
Yeah, the thing is I'm more of like, I play the ukulele, my brother plays the drum, and my sister sings, and we just leave it like that. We don't do the whole, we're not the master family where it's like, okay, my turn to on the microphone. It's like, no, she's the only one that sings. But I should be getting lessons from her, but I'm sure she'd charge me a pretty penny as well. I'm just doomed to having
by the way, Heath Pierce, a Broadway star. That's why we're talking about this, by the way. But anyway, thank you so much for helping us reach 5,000 and counting, by the way. This is not the end of Que Golazo for this week. I know we have Thanksgiving tomorrow. It's the end for me. I'm taking a little break for the rest of the week, but you're in good hands. Heath Pierce right here is going to host our weekend preview. We're going to have some good guests, Jimmy Conrad, etc., and all the other good people. There's also a weekend recap as well coming up because there's still action this week. And then I think Monday there'll be some other things going on. Hollywood and Jimmy will do the USMNT hour, and I'll be back on Tuesday. And then everything back to normal. So, Que Golazo just keeps on rolling. So please make sure to follow Que Golazo wherever you get your pods. And it goes without saying, you should subscribe to Que Golazo YouTube channel and hit that notification bell. By the way, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Please be kind to each other. Be thankful. I'm thankful for you, Heath Pierce. Heath, what are you thankful for? I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, man.
Yeah, I'm thankful for the USMNT the USWNT. I'm thankful for everybody here, all of the subscribers. By the way, if you're not part of the conversation, it's all happening on Twitter. Anytime you retweet what this show is going on, it helps reach more people. So I know sometimes it's hard within the YouTube platform, but if you find it on us sharing on Instagram, sharing on Twitter, it helps more people that are outside of this to bring them in to this wider family. And I'm thankful for everybody that engages with this stuff, because it might not feel like it, and it might not seem like it at times, but we see everything, we read everything. We love it, and it keeps all of this going and keeps us motivated to keep making it, because this community is getting bigger as we head towards, this explosion of growth of the game in the US that we're trying to lead the way on with 2026 and all of that. So yeah, that's all the things. I could go on for hours of what I'm thankful for, but that's it for now.
I couldn't have said it better, my friend. Thank you so much, HP. Appreciate you, man. Thank you, everybody. Make sure that you have an amazing Thanksgiving. I am thankful for you all. We are thankful for you all. Please be kind to each other, and we will see you next time. Until then.